In this video, we want to discuss the book Profit First, and we suggest every hairstylist should use this method, but with a few slight tweaks. So stay tuned to hear more.
But first, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button and the bell to be notified every time we post about two best things, hair and money.
Being in the hair industry for such a long time, I was always looking for ways to optimize the way I run my business. It was always a challenge for me to stay consistent with how I paid myself and ran my operating expenses. It wasn't until I read the book Profit First by Mike
Michalowicz? We always forget how to say his name.
If you have not read it, we highly recommend it. It wasn't until I started implementing some of the strategies that gave me the ability to stop living client to client. Using and sticking to these strategies helped me be prepared for my taxes, my operating expenses for my business, and most importantly, taking a profit. That's what we're here for, right?
Yeah, if you have not read the book, it's basically discusses the mistakes that most entrepreneurs make. And that is when they make a sale, they use the majority of their sales to grow their business. And with that, it increases the expenses in the business. With most of the sales income going to pay expenses, there's rarely any profit left over. They start thinking because one day when the business is much bigger, profits will come. But sadly, that day never comes. Because when sales dip, expenses still stay elevated and cash bleeds out of the business and the business doesn't survive.
But it doesn't have to be this way. Most entrepreneurs don't even realize that you can grow your business and be profitable from day one. The key is to tweak the universal business formula from sales minus expenses equal profit to sales minus profit equal expenses. Instead of first paying down expenses with sales revenue and seeing what profit is left over, take a portion of each sale as profit, no matter what, and then use what is ever left over to pay expenses.
The Profit First system relies on 4 principles. These are the same 4 principles that millions of people around the world use to lose weight and stay fit. The 4 principles are: use a smaller plate, serve sequentially, remove temptation, and enforce a rhythm. We're going to go over the principles in this book and then discuss what we would do differently coming from a hairstylist point of view.
Profit First principle number 1, use a smaller plate. When you serve yourself on a large plate, you tend to fill your plate with excessive food and then feel obligated to eat everything on your plate, even when you're full. But if you serve yourself on a small plate, you'll be forced to put less food on your plate and automatically consume fewer calories and shed more weight over time. So how does this relate to business? Just as constraining the size of your plate can help shred excess weight, constraining the size of your operating budget will help you shed excessive expenses.
The cash you collect from every sale is served to 4 different plates. Money can go to operating expenses, and that is anything that you need to run your business, such as rent, supplies, software, marketing, employees. The next one is owner's compensation, and that's the money you need to pay your living expenses. And then third is taxes, fourth is profit. Typically, operating expenses is a massive plate. So some businesses use 80% of the cash from a sale to pay for their operating expenses. If you allocated 80% of every sale to operating expenses, but were suddenly forced to make do with, say, 70%, you'd probably find a way to run your business with less money.
Always ultimately the goal. You and I are always more resourceful when we need to be. Just think back to the last time your toothpaste was running low. When the tube of toothpaste was nearly empty, you probably got 10 more brushes out of the same amount of toothpaste that you used when you first opened the toothpaste tube. Parkinson's law states that when we have more time, money, food, or toothpaste available, we tend to consume more. But when forced to work with less, we suddenly become thoughtful and more resourceful and discover that we need way less than we thought.
Yeah, for sure. In business, when you allocate more money to profit and force yourself to spend less on expenses, you're forced to find efficiencies and cut unnecessary expenses. Maybe you find a piece of software that streamlines a process and allows you to rely on fewer contractors. Or maybe you discover that having office space isn't necessary and allow all of your employees to work remotely. I'm just giving some examples here. One entrepreneur in the book in the Profit First book likes to ask the team, how can we keep doing what we're doing for 1/3 of the cost? Cutting expenses by 2/3 seems unrealistic, but if you ask yourself that question every day, you'll be amazed at the creative insights you'll have and how well you run your business a year from now.
The Profit First number 2 principle is serve sequentially. If your first course of meal is a leafy green salad rich in nutrients, you'll tend to not overeat when you consume your future courses. How does this relate to business? If you distribute the money you make from a sale to your profit bank account first, you naturally won't want to spend the money on expenses. Profit is to your business psyche as nutrient-rich food is in your stomach, because profit is satisfying in 3 ways.
First, profit makes business rewarding because at the end of each quarter, you get to distribute profit to you and your partners and spend that profit on whatever the heck you want. Essentially, profit money is play money or party money. Number 2, profit creates a cash reserve for emergencies, which provides peace of mind when running a stressful business. Number 3, profit becomes the best metric you can find for measuring the health of your hairstylist business, because if you're able to steadily increase profit, that means your business is performing better. And if you can't keep increasing profit, your business is telling you that something needs to change.
Now, if you're not taking a profit, or you think it's unreasonable for a new business like a startup to take a profit, then just start so small. Start by allocating just 1% of each sale to a profit account. Taking 1% of every sale will not impact your business. I hope not. Now, it also won't lead to substantial gains in the profit, but the mere act of putting money into your profit account with every sale is symbolic and will have a powerful impact on how you think about your business. It will motivate you to focus on the best products and services with the highest margin and ignore the mediocre products that won't substantially increase your profit. In other words, as soon as you start taking profit first, you'll focus on what you're best at and get even better at it.
Definitely. So profit first principle number 3, remove temptation. If you remove junk food from your house and force yourself to drive to the store to consume a chocolate bar, you'll probably consume fewer chocolate bars. How does this apply to your business? Well, if you move your profits to a separate bank account that's hard to withdraw funds from because maybe there's a fee associated with it or there's a delay in getting the funds there, then you'll be less tempted and less likely to use your profits to pay for expenses.
The 4th principle is enforce a rhythm. If you wait too long between meals, you'll be more likely to gorge on your next meal and consume more calories than really you needed. However, if you have several small meals at the same time every day, you'll control your hungry and be less likely to gorge on comfort food during your next meal. Now let's apply this to business. Well, if there were big gaps between financial assessments of your business, you'll tend to think you're doing much better than you actually are and take on more expenses than you really can actually afford.
With the profit first system, you do a simple 1-minute scan of 5 bank accounts: income, operating expenses, owner's compensation, taxes, profit, on the 1st and the 15th of every month, which allows you to pay all your bills on time, but also stays keenly aware of how your business is doing and what adjustments you need to make.
Profit First recommends you create 5 separate checking accounts at your bank. Nickname the accounts as follows. 1, income. In this account, that collects sales revenue. 2, OPEX for operating expenses. 3 is comp for owner's compensation. 4 is for taxes, and 5 is for profit. Okay, this is great and all, but how does this apply to us as hairstylists? We believe the 5 bank accounts may be a little overkill for booth rent hairstylists. I did try this, but it seemed like a little too much work, and I would not keep up with consistency of it. It felt like too much work, to be honest with you. So I needed a shift to make it easier for me. And how I want to show you is how I tailored it to a stylist's everyday use.
Before we move on though and go into that, we want to hear from you. Have you read Profit First? If so, what did you think about it? And do you implement all his systems that we described above? What would you do differently? Leave a comment below and let's chat about it.
Okay, so the formula that has worked for me for years is changing up his strategy just a little bit. Instead of the 5 bank accounts, I have 3 business bank accounts. I have them labeled as following. 1, operating account, 2, profit account, and 3 is taxes. Let's go through each one of these in greater detail. The first account is what I call operations account. This is where all of my income flows into and where all my expenses are paid out of. So anytime I take a Venmo or a Square payment, it goes straight into this account. The second account is my profit account. This is the account I use when I pay myself after each day. And finally, the third account, which is probably the most frustrating account, let's be honest, is my tax account. You need to label each account as one. The bank should be able to do this, or you can do this on online banking. By the way, I want to mention that these are business bank accounts. None of these accounts are commingled with your personal. This is so important for you to separate your business and your personal accounts.
Once we have these 3 business accounts set up, we need to determine what percentage of income you want to put in each account. So in the book, Mike has found that like a healthy business that has less than $250,000 in income should use 5% to profit, 50% to owner's comp, 15% to tax, and 30% to operating expenses. Again, he's using 5 accounts though.
What I do and has worked for me in the years, I use 60% for owner's profit. I sent 20% from my tax account and 20% in the operating expenses, such as booth rent, supplies, hair extensions, etc. This may be a little bit high, but I always like to keep a little cushion in the operating account for a peace of mind for myself. And if I need to order hair extensions and the client hasn't paid me yet until after the service, this will not put a strain on me or my account. Now we already know we are going to hear from some people that 20% of taxes are not enough. Trust me, I get that. Some states have way higher taxes than other states. I have found that allocating 20% for me usually gets me pretty darn close when I pay in my estimated quarterly taxes. Sometimes I may owe a little bit more, sometimes it works out perfectly. We also own some real estate, so we're able to utilize some of the depreciation strategies that help lower our tax bill.
The point is, whether it's 20%, 22%, 25%, just make sure you're putting money away at the end of each day or week so that when the time comes, you can pay your tax bill. You may have to adjust it a little bit as what works for your situation. You don't want to wait until the end of the year and then you have this huge tax bill and you have no money planned for it.
So let me show you what my typical day looks like. When I am done for the day, let's say I made $800 that day in revenue. I do this every day without fail. I will send $480 to my profit account. I then will send $160 to my tax account, and I will keep $160 in my operating account. Following this strategy has literally been a game changer for me and has allowed me to stop living client to client.
If you follow this system, you'll be forced to cut more and more non-essential expenses and find creative ways to grow your business without mindlessly increasing expenses. Also want to add, this may not happen for you all at once, and that's okay. Work your way towards these percentages. I know it took you a while to get there. Your hair business will gradually transform into a well-oiled machine.
It'll become second nature, I promise. If this video has helped you, please follow me for info as we dive into so many more of the business side of being a hairstylist. We also discuss these topics in much greater depth in our community of like-minded stylists and beauty professionals. If you're interested in learning more, click the link below to check out our website and join our community today.
But before you go, be sure to check out this video on financial concepts every hairstylist should know. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. We always appreciate your support and the encouragement, and it helps us make more of these type of videos.